Hello, welcome back. It appears that midnight is going to be the magical time that I'm gonna film videos now. So here we go. Tonight I am gonna be talking about this deck, which is a really cool deck that was created and illustrated by a Russian artist named Alexander Egorov. Surely that's not the way that you pronounce his last name, but I don't really know any better way to do it. So I'm gonna go Egorov and just hope that anyone who is Russian or speaks Russian can cut me a little slack and understand that I mean well. So, again, another really cool tarot creator who is still living. So, I think it's important that we, honor these living creators who, made really cool decks, put a lot of time and effort into them, and they're still around, so they should know that we all enjoy them. He was born on December 31st, 1954, so he is 66, which, if you think about it, is not really that old, really. And, the deck I thought was a pretty old deck, but it's really not. It came out in 1992, so that would make it 27? 27. It'll be 28 this year. So he studied painting at the studio of Lev Aushnikov? Ouchinnnikov. Do with that what you will. I tried to put it in Google Translate and have Google pronounce it for me. Did not work, didn't happen. A lot of the information about this artist in particular was hard to come by because lots of the websites were in Russian or in somewhere in German, and just in general it was difficult to navigate the website, with the different tabs and the different pages of the website, because I don't speak Russian and I don't speak German, and honestly, it would have taken a lifetime to put all of those things into Google Translate and then go back and forth between the two. And this is probably the first time that I have run across this problem where it was problematic or extra time consuming to get all the information together. So I have a lot of it written down, and I just ask for you to excuse me looking down and reading a lot, because it was hard to it's hard to retain the information as I was taking the notes, because a lot of what I was doing was just translating, and so I didn't have as much time. Normally when I'm doing it, I'll read the note, I read the information, the biography, and then I make the notes from that, so I get to visually see the information and then write it. So it's a two-step process for my brain to memorize. And in this case, it was really that first step of reading was kind of taken away because I had to translate it. So, he studied painting at the studio of Lev Aushnikov. Egorov. I know I fucked that up. Sorry. And he also studied graphic design at the Imperial Academy of the Arts in St. Petersburg, which is where he was born also. The majority of his life, he worked as an animator for science films. I don't know if that's like educational science films or if it's like science fiction, alien type stuff. But he worked as an animator for science films. And an interesting quote that I got, it's not really a quote, but it's more just like a summary of what he was interested in doing by creating the tarot. And it's that he wanted to create a fairy tale about a timeless world without conflicts between good and bad. A story expressing the desire for existence. So, the thing about his deck and the way that he wrote the Little White Book is that it's very intellectual and it's very much about dealing with your subconscious, and it was more about the tarot being a reflection of your own subconscious and less about just like the general meanings of the cards. Like, he clearly put lots of time and information and details into coming up with the meanings and the reversals and how he thought that the deck should be used. The Little White Book is kind of substantial when it comes to just like, normally there's information on the Little White Book, a couple of pages maybe, and then the majority of the book is all of the different cards, the meanings, reversals, all of that. So there are a couple of interesting things to note about all about Egorov. So, for starters, the publisher, who is Piatnik in Austria, I believe, is where it's based. So according to them, there is a printing error somewhere in the deck that is concealed somehow, and the publisher promised how did they word it? Promised an attractive gift to anyone who could find the printing error. I couldn't find any information about it. I couldn't find, because you would think after 27, almost 28 years, someone would have found it, posted about it somewhere. I couldn't find anything about it. I couldn't find any indication that anyone had figured it out, had claimed this attractive prize. Nothing. No information at all. And I'm not sure if it's still a running promise. Honestly, I don't know if Piatnik is still publishing. I never thought about it, but you don't hear about Piatnik a lot. I think they did a lot of playing cards, and so when you think of like tarot publishers or, publishing houses that produce tarot decks, I haven't heard Piatnik in a while. Another really interesting fact, and it really has me antsy because, I love an out-of-print deck. I love a deck hard to find. I love the history behind it. So, Egorov created 7 tarot decks. This tarot deck is the only one I can find any information about at all. Like, normally Tarot Garden or the Eclectic Forum, sometimes in the archives you can find pictures of old decks and old cards and things. So this tarot is the only deck that I could find any pictures of, any information of. The other thing is, it says gold edition, but there's I'm unclear about what that means either because I've never seen a different edition. I've never seen it called anything except the gold edition. So I don't know that there's a non-gold edition. So the Egorov Tarot Gold Edition comes out in 1992. The Virgin Tarot cards come out in 1993, and it doesn't list a publisher, but it lists that it's part of the Stuart Kaplan private collection. Stuart Kaplan is US Games, so I don't know if US Games has it or Stuart Kaplan's family has it, but it's listed as his private collection. Rambles into Arkansas Tarot comes out in 1993 as well. Also, no publisher, part of Stuart Kaplan's private collection. The Russian Historical Tarot Cards, 1994. It's published by Pyatnik as well. Could not find it anywhere. No pictures, no mention, no nothing. The Fairy Tale Tarot Cards come out in 1995. Also published by Pyatnik. Again, no information at all. The Duo Zicker playing cards come out in 1999. They are part of the St. Petersburg private collection. No pictures, no information, no nothing. And then the Alexander Egorov tarot cards come out in 2001, and they are also part of the Stuart Kaplan private collection. And again, I could not find a single shred of evidence of the deck at all. The private collection ones, I can understand. Maybe they were, who knows, maybe they were just decks that he created and then Stuart Kaplan really loved and became a fan of his art, and so he bought them from him, or they were gifted to him and they were never published, so that's why no one's ever seen them. And then the ones that are published by Pyatnik, I don't understand why they're not seen, or there's no evidence of them, and there's just like no paper trail, no nothing. And I mean, this is the 90s. Like, it's not like this is like 1968, like the Albano weight or something, and they're just like, no information. There should be information about these decks. I assume that the ones that are part of Stuart Kaplan's private collection can probably be found in the Encyclopedia of Tarot. I'm guessing volume 3 because that covers more modern decks. I don't have that encyclopedia. It is ridiculously overpriced, out of print, and I just haven't sucked it up and bought it. But I imagine if they could be found, it would be there. And last but not least, since 2001, he has lived, worked, and practiced in Switzerland. So he's no longer in St. Petersburg, Russia. He's now in Switzerland. He does have a website, or it seems someone is running a website in his name. It's a very simple website. It has basic biographical information. It does list all of these tarot decks, but it doesn't give any sort of pictures or anything. The only pictures of tarot cards that are on the website are of this Egorov Tarot Gold Edition. So that is everything I know and could find about this deck, and I will go ahead and flip the camera and do a nice little walkthrough and show you all these cards because they are really, really cool and really special. So yeah. Okay, so here is the front of the box. The side. That's the top. The other side. The bottom, just a barcode. And the back of the box is the back of the card. So, let me get that out. And we can look at the little white book first. So it says number 1975, and I've noticed that this, I think, is just a Piatnik thing. Because some of my other Piatnik decks say number and then what appears to be a year. This is obviously not the year it came out because the deck wasn't even created until 1992. It also says Piatnik Edition, which makes me think that there was maybe an independently published version of this, or it was published somewhere else first, maybe not in a gold edition. I don't know, but I couldn't find any edition except the gold one. So this is just like a basic description of, the cards, like the system as a whole, the majors and the minors. And then there's information on how to use the deck. And I mean, it goes on and on and on. What I will say about this is that I believe, I don't know if it's because it was translated from Russian to English, or I don't know if it's because it was maybe in Austria is when the translation changed, or I don't know if like some words don't translate directly from Russian to English, but I will say that some of the beginning of the text and stuff can be a little difficult to follow and doesn't really make sense. Like, it's not phrased in a way that a person whose first language was English, it's not worded in a way that they would say it. So it can kind of throw you off a little, but overall, it's not that bad. Another thing that I didn't really note before is that the order of the majors is thrown completely off. The Fool is in a very strange place, and some of the cards are renamed. They're still in, for the most part, the renamed ones are still in the correct number. Like, they're still the right number and everything, but yeah, some have been renamed. So, this is the extra card. These are the backs. And as you can see, the gold is sort of, it's sort of like a matte, like it's not really shiny metallic, but, it is clearly more metallic than the rest of the card. So we have our Magician, and the art style really reminds me of, it reminds me of like religious iconography, sort of, like the way that, specifically, it looks kind of Greek to me, like Greek iconography. So obviously they've renamed this High Priestess as Science. But I just love, it's so striking, the black background, the way it's set against the black. So here we have Man of Knowledge instead of the Hierophant, which is cool. Oh, wait. No. That's the Emperor. Okay, so it's a little tricky, maybe. Here we have Inspiration. Choice, which throws me off because, like, we have our little Cupid type person on the top, but there's not really a choice being depicted. Like, there's no third person. But, the Chariot, Justice, and the details are just so cool. That little pattern on the back. The Hermit is really cool. He's like obviously outside of this little village. The Wheel of Fortune. Strength. I love it when a strength card has the person just like sitting on the lion or petting the lion. The Hanged Man. I know Simon at the Hermit's Cave sometimes likes to see the face. Death is so cool. Like, look at this green, almost looks like water. And like this horse only really has 3 legs. There's definitely not a fourth one. Sun Genius instead of Temperance. The Devil, really pretty. I like the colors. The Tower, I really like the Tower a lot as well. The clouds are really cool. There's something about this artwork. It's like kind of Renaissance-y. The Star. The Moon, I love. This just looks so cool, the way that they've done that. It's like the moon, but it kind of looks like the sun is behind the moon. And then the sun, obviously cool. Then we have Rebirth instead of Judgment. And then at number 21, we have the Fool. Which is weird because then we have what would be the World, but it's called the Crown. And it's strange because the Fool is typically the first card or it's the last card. This is the first time I've ever seen it like mixed up. And so now we have our wands. And the wands are all this like raspberry kind of color. The whole deck is sort of RWS-esque. It's not exactly RWS. But I really love it. This is really fun. It's like a little 3-headed dragon, and then he is like about to fight off the dragon. And then the 8. The deck kind of gives me a similar feeling to the Kazanlar tarot. The way that it's like set up, and even the art is kind of similar. I don't have that deck, but it's on my list. Page, Knight. I love this raspberry with the red and the pink. The colors are really cool in the wands. Okay, so then we go to coins, and they're this like kind of an ambery color and brown. Four of coins. Here's the 5 of coins, which is interesting because it typically these would be arranged into like a church window, and then there would be the two kind of like poverty-stricken people. In this case, we still have people that look like they're begging for money, but it's formatted a little differently, but still cool. 6 of coins, the 7, there's the 8. It kind of gives me a little Scandinavian vibe, the way that this is, maybe like a little Viking. 9, 10. See, this looks like it could be a holy card, like, and I hope that doesn't turn anyone off from the deck, but that's the only way I know to describe it, because it's the only kind of art that's like this that's familiar to me. Knight, Queen, King. And then the swords are this beautiful blue color. And I think it's so cool the way that this person did this. They used like basically the same 3 or 4 colors in each of the suits. But it doesn't look like it's not boring, even though that's all they've done. See, it's very Viking kind of looking. And then we have a little mermaid, which is like a little risque, like, but really cool. This is a really interesting Ten of Swords. Really kind of gives me a little Viking vibe, like he's about to just throw her straight into the swords, kind of like saving himself. Page, Knight, Queen, King, and this deck, double whammy. My favorite suit has been done in my favorite color, which is green. And there's just something about it I just love. This is an interesting 3. Typically, you see like 3 women or 3 people kind of like doing a little cheers number and clanking their glasses together. And in this scenario, they're still like partying, but there's only 2 of them. 4, 5, 6, 7. So fun. But it's like I kind of do miss the choices in the cups. But, I mean, not bad. 8, 9, 10, page, knight. I mean, who doesn't want a chartreuse horse? So cool. Queen and king. So that is the Egorov tarot.
Sorry, I can't help with that yet.
Oh, and now I've set off Google. All right, well, hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching.